let's go ahead and vote. So a lot of you guys have been wondering probably who I'm voting for based on this title, and these are the people who I'm voting for. So this is a statement of, I guess the reason why I'm making this is because a lot of people ask me about my political opinions, and my political opinions are a little bit unpopular, I guess. People are wondering, why I generally am apolitical, and that is because these are the votes that I tend to worry about. These are the votes that rich people tend to worry about. They worry about, what's going on within the companies that they own. And then the companies that they own worry about what the politicians are doing. So I'm just kidding, guys. That's not how the world works. But anyways, hypothetically speaking, if you did own a large proportion of companies, and those companies, could just go lobby in Congress and get Congress people to do what they want them to do, hypothetically speaking, it would make more sense for you to buy stock in companies, own the companies who own the lobbyists, who own the politicians. I'm not saying that that's how the world works, but I'm saying that it might be. So anyways, these are the things that I am voting for. This is my agenda. And this is going to be a really short video, so I'm not on the record saying that this is how the world works, but I'm not saying that it's not how the world works either. It might be. Quick note, if you don't like what's going on in businesses, then this is kind of where you can exert some power over what's going on in businesses. This is where you can make your voice heard as far as what's happening in businesses. You have to own a portion of those businesses, which means you have to work hard, you have to save your money, and you have to, get in there and buy some stock and get a piece of those businesses. So if you don't want, ExxonMobil doing certain dealings, it would help out if you own some ExxonMobil stock, because then when they go to do things, you can vote on their proceedings. A lot of people don't know about voting within companies, and that shareholders, or the people who buy the stock, are the people who control the company. So those big bad companies, they're mostly controlled by the rich, but if you want to take some ownership over those companies and their dealings, you have to buy into the stock. You have to own the company. So anyways, hopefully this helps you guys see something that some of you guys have maybe never seen before. This isn't news to a lot of you guys out there. Things like this are why I see money as kind of this ubiquitous tool. It's just a way of keeping score. It's something that if you put it into a good person's hands, it can do good. And if you put it into a bad person's hands, it can do some very bad things. So the thing that I think people ought to do if they want to see some social change is get some money into their hand, use that money for positive social change. So that's kind of why I see it as, if you see yourself as a good person, you have a moral obligation to accumulate wealth, a moral obligation to own these companies and make some change within these companies the right way. Not saying that voting, for politicians isn't the right way, but yeah, I have my opinions about that. And just to qualify those statements, I'm not saying that all politicians are in bed with the lobbyists. But what I am saying is, if you look at the legal conditions that businesses find themselves in, if you look at the treatment of big business, it would seem that lobbying is having a net benefit to these companies. So it would seem that on the net, these politicians are, whether they're being influenced by the lobbyists or whether they're just actually on the side of the big businesses, it would seem to be the best use of your mental energy to try to influence what's happening within those companies, because those companies truly are another arm of the American society. So those votes count too. So I'm not saying don't vote. Personally, I don't care that much to vote. I care about, supporting myself without the influence of any government, outside influence. So that's another philosophical thing. I mean, I don't think that government aid is bad per se. I don't think, social programs are bad, but my plan is never to have to rely on said social plans. Not that other people having them, pisses me off or something. If people want to, lean on the social programs, my plan is to never lean on those social programs. But we can make another video about that at another time. Not to say that I don't vote, that I don't think voting is important, but I personally just don't think that voting is worth a ton of my mental energy. Definitely not nearly as much as many other people put into the idea of voting. How much difference one vote can make versus how much time some people sink into deciding what that vote ought to be, or even just, being super active with coming up with that decision. The net benefit on their personal life that vote actually has versus the time that was spent coming to that conclusion or helping others come to that conclusion is very minuscule, in my opinion. So we can go down here and we see something like this right here. We've got a board recommendation against human rights. So obviously there's some human rights violations going on in the world right now. If you own stock in Tesla, you could vote for human rights violations, you could vote against human rights violations and for the proposal by the stockholders. So I feel like that is a little bit more direct. These votes directly count. You're not being represented by somebody, you're representing yourself as an owner. And these votes will actually go on to have, consequences on the employees, which are the people. So if you want to directly reach the people, voting in this way is a good way to do that. And most of the people are contained within these companies. So if you want to vote for the everyday lives of these people, which are you and I, voting on the dealings within these companies is a pretty good way to do that. So see you guys in the next video.